All right, welcome everyone, and welcome to all the beautiful spirits joining us today. And chapter 21, led by Michael. And we have some questions, but we're gonna play with how it turns out as we go, because this is a very packed, a very interesting chapter for all of us. And I'm still kind of stomping my feet, angry, tantruming about the chapter. But stuff I read in the chapter, yeah, just write it up about it. Just another day for me. So, Michael, take it away.
So, reading and rereading the chapter, I really felt that these guys, Walu Mali, Mayanin, and Cushna, they're a team, and they're helping Aphraar to fulfill his desires. They're nurturing and encouraging his desires. And Walu Mali had some time ago mentioned that this lady that Aphraar knew on Earth, was in a bad state, Clarice, and he couldn't get her out of his mind. And so he wanted to see if he could help her. And there was a lady that was coming over in her sleep state, coming at night when she was asleep into the spirit world, that had a real nice touch for talking to people and a good connection with people that were in darkness. And so he was asking his guides if she could accompany him, if they could go and see if they could do something for Clarice. And Walu Mali is kind of like, seems like the overseer, and he's checking, is this mission going to succeed? Is everybody ready? Are all the pieces in place? And he's asking Mayanin and Cushna volunteers to go along with it. So what one of the things that struck me was the care that these guys are taking for him, and they're kind of orchestrating something within and enabling something noble and loving within Aphraar. And so I wanted to bring to help us be aware of the love that our guides have for us, and then ask, do we feel like we deserve that much love? And I had not been aware of all the work they must do, and I don't really feel I'm worth it. That's my default feeling. So, and then I thought, well, how do I defeat myself through the day, minute by minute, or my as we call it, my false truths? I think false faith, erroneous faith, corrupt faith. So that's where I'm going in this chapter. So could we take the part about, what do you feel about the love that the guides are showing, and do you feel worthy of that? And maybe, do you have any blocks? And I think, I was aware of our spirit friends too, and they may feel like what I'm going to see is things that we think are normal are really blocks that we employ to keep something from coming to us and challenging us.
Yeah.
So it's open for comment. Alicia.
You mute.
You're muted.
Oh.
I thought I unmuted, sorry. I've felt this before, but I felt it more profoundly today. And it was reading one of the pieces that you sent to us about forgiveness. I felt like I really had my heart closed to receiving love from God and from my guides, because I'm so afraid of it being taken away, and or it having to be in a certain way, like there's a manipulation around it, that I've been closed to it. But I felt myself opening up more to it today, and I have felt my guides and God's love and them helping me through different times. But generally speaking, I definitely feel like I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy of that. most of the time.
Thank you.
Selena?
I'm not sure if this exactly answers the question, but what really came forward for me with this was how cautionary they were, and yet at the same time, really excited that he wanted to do this. It made me feel that this was kind of not maybe the usual, like she was maybe in a place of darkness that isn't really, like she's not really asking yet. She hasn't reached a place where she's begging for help or any, like she's pretty stuck in thinking that this is the way things should be. But it's this, like this coming of this soulmate love that he's feeling that can actually transcend that, which I've read about in other, like in Paget, there's instances of that where that soulmate love seems to propel things forward in a way that can't be done normally. So even though there was caution, it was still exciting because they can now sort of demonstrate that with him, that what you're feeling here is really different. It's not just love that you're feeling for her, your action, and how they can, I guess, how in mediumship you can see how well things are coordinated. Like things will have happened to me 2 days ago that comes into play with a mediumship session, and I'm just always blown away by it and so excited by it. But they're not, I never feel like they're coming from a place of perfect action always. They're still just, they're trying stuff, you know, and it works out, but then they can maybe work out a better way even later, or learn from it, or it's not like putting them on a pedestal that they're perfect all the time. They're always just trying to act in love, and they always can see room for improvement in their actions, and it's all well coordinated, but it's also open to change in the moment as things unfold.
Thank you for that, Selena. Yeah, I think one of our blocks are that, well, we're not perfect. We're not allowing it perfectly. We're not going to execute it perfectly. They're not going to be able to help us the way that they could be helping us.
Yeah.
So better just not let anything happen.
Yeah, but they're always in flux. They're very malleable to what changes and where you are and what you're feeling and what it's not, there's no perfect way of doing it, or not perfect, no standard way of doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I love that. Like as for personalities and character and experience and all those things still come into play, just like they do here. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Virginia?
For me, it really made me think about how many times my guides are working with me where I'm resistant or I refuse and I don't see that they're trying to help me. And this must be happening must have happened so many times. And they still love me so much and have so much faith in me that they still continue to do it. So I must be worth it. Even though I think that I haven't, paid my debts or suffered enough to compensate for all the wrongs I've done, they still feel that. They still keep trying. I don't feel abandoned ever by them. And I know that there's been a lot of failed missions, so to speak, and what they've attempted for me because I didn't see what they were trying to do, the love that was in it, and how they were trying to redirect me. So it's just, it's amazing.
So a couple of blocks there in what you're mentioning. One is that first I gotta pay off my debt, and then I can allow myself to be helped, when actually we probably need help more when we're in the debts. And two is that if I didn't perfectly receive the gift as given, then I am in the wrong somehow. Like if somebody's giving me something and I'm not receiving it, I've messed up. And I can feel our guides try to point out that that's not how it is, but I don't have a perspective on how else to see it because I have the same error. But I'm trying to point out that that is that the whole idea is pointing to an error that I haven't released, so I can't even see the error and speak of what else it could be. But right there are a couple of blocks that are stopping us. And it's like what Selena mentioned earlier, that she hasn't asked for help. And it's so wonderful that a soulmate can still pray for and intervene on someone's behalf. So there's something kind of percolating there in the back of my head around that as well. But I wish this area could be released from us. I think our areas around receiving assistance from guides and the faults we feel we have about it are probably blocking us from like, oh, you know, they failed 300 times before. I better not try getting them to help me again because I can't do that to them again. And how terrible is it for, there's something we're missing here in that perspective. But it's good that we're exposing our blocks as we go.
Michaela, may I jump in before I come to you? So I hear Selena, this morning I prayed to allow, I was appreciating the work that my guides do for me that I've thwarted, and I've asked God to help me not do that. And the prayer's not answered yet, but I've suspended my doubt of the things that I ask God for. So I'm going to trust that it's going to happen eventually. I'm not going to, take the air out of my tires just because I'm in a state of doubt. And Virginia, what I heard you say, I heard you say, or Mila, when you summarized that we want to be worthy before we accept help. I've never felt worthy enough to accept the help.
Yeah.
We're not in God's life, in God's eyes, we're not condemned for our condition, our errors. We're not punished for saying no when we should say yes. Yeah. We're always offered a hand and a lift up, and there's like endless understanding, sympathy, compassion, mercy.
Yeah.
And there was another thought too, based on what Virginia said, and I can't find it, but I wanted to say that because my spirit friends, I mean, I know I have those feelings, so my spirit friends are also going to feel like this is hopeless, I'll never get there, but these are some of the things that we do to ourselves that prevent the help so freely offered from coming to us. And it's that help that's going to lift us out of this state that we're in, not what I can think of doing. Okay, over to Michaela, or go ahead.
Well, what I've just got a hint of is that the false belief that has already entered us stop us from asking and engaging and receiving. And they understand that. They understand and appreciate what the false belief is doing for us. So they don't hold it against us that we're as resistant as we are, because that's what false beliefs do. Like they see false belief as a thing we have inside of us that because of it, of course, we're going to be kind of blocked. And which is what, as we start talking about Clarice, you can see some of the false beliefs that's like just eating away at her. And so we have false beliefs. And it's not actually our fault that we have false beliefs and that we're kind of imprisoned by it. So our guides are trying to, they get it, is what they say. If I'm receiving the information sufficiently. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Michaela.
Just in response to the question about are we receiving it or open to receiving the love, I've noticed I've had a few moments over the last couple of years, particularly living in such a nature-filled, beautiful, soft, nurturing environment. I've had these moments of connecting to the softness of God's love or our guide's love, and the gentleness, and that there's no forcefulness. It's just there. And I saw in myself that I'm so tuned into the hardness and in wanting to receive from the physical world, which really, I think the majority of the physical world is hard in terms of what you receive back from it. And it's one of my biggest battles at the moment, is being prepared to let go of my addictions in the physical, to be open to the softness of the spiritual. And I'm finding that quite challenging, to be okay with maybe no one is going to like me at all, and whether that's true or not. But that's the fear, is trying to keep things the way they were, when realizing I really actually have to let go of all of it, because none of it is soft. And I've got to seek with God or in the spiritual to be open to the softness. But what ultimately it came down to is that I'm hard with myself, and until I'm prepared to respond to myself with softness, I'm not really going to be open to the softness that is being offered to me.
Good one. I like that framework, that comparison of hardness and softness. I think even just becoming sensitive to that will make us start seeking. And that's a really beautiful parameters. Like, where's the softness right now? Where's the soft bit? Because that's where I'm going to feel my guides. But yeah, that how you treat yourself is how you want to be treated. And then you treat yourself because of how you were treated to begin with.
And I think, like you just said, it just comes with a simple question or a desire for a bit more awareness of starting to be like, oh, that's really hard. That's not how God is. And just trying to reframe it so that you can start to be open to the softness.
Can you give an example?
Yes, hang on. Oh, I was doing like a session with a woman, energy work, and I was in this state of, because she was telling me, she was helping me to recognize where I was at in my body, and there was so much hardness in my head. There was like, oh, come on, you've got to do it. Oh, she notices when you're drifting away, and I was really like forceful, come on, drop into it. And when I finally dropped into it, I felt the softness of God's love, that there was no pressure on me to get there. There was no expectation. There was only this gentle holding that when I got there, I was going to be open to God. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Huh. It's never, ever, ever crossed my mind before that God's love is soft. It's like, oh, dang. Okay, some perspective change is going to have to happen here. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Selena.
Okay, I hope I can describe this properly. Somebody just said something that triggered a memory. A couple of weeks ago, I was so grateful because I've been receiving so much help from my guides. And this is kind of an injury that I have around, like, there's so many people suffering. Why would you spend so much time on me when there's so much suffering in the world? And they said, it has nothing to do with time. And it's nothing to do with ability. And it has nothing to do with all the love and the desire that we have, because we could fix everything just like that. But it has to do with our ability to do it based on the desire and the love and the will and the humility of each individual, like what they can do with that. It's got nothing to do with time. It's got nothing to do with not being able to do it all. It's got to do with being able to do it within God's laws. And yeah, so I felt that, like, it makes me feel more receptive to receiving so much help.
Yeah.
You know, without feeling guilty about it, that I'm taking from others.
Yeah.
Here I am, this privileged person, and I'm taking no, they do everything they can for everybody they can within the rules, the laws, you know. And if there's somebody starving in some country because there's a war, well, they can't affect the will of the people creating that, and they can only do what they can do, right? But that doesn't affect what they're going to do for me, because I'm not suffering and in a war, you know. It's not like we have to take turns based on level of suffering.
Right.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So that just changed, really shifted things for me. And just the feeling I got from her when she was describing that to me was just wonderful.
Okay. Thank you.
I had a feeling in this chapter that Aphraar is operating on a slightly higher level. Maybe not slightly higher is right, but he's more passionate. He's got a stronger faith. He's more powerful and driven. Maybe more connected to himself. So I'm wondering if you had any feelings about Aphraar's soul in this chapter. And I was trying to tie that to what does a soul that's growing feel like versus a soul that's stagnant. And I wanted to give it make it tangible, so our spirit friends would know the difference, that there can be a different state, and also to support us that we're growing, and there are some signs for it. So does anybody want to talk about what you feel about Aphraar's soul or your own soul?
So your question is, what do we feel Aphraar's grown in this chapter compared to the past, and what that activate for us? What does that make us feel? Is that your question?
Do we feel he's grown, and what does a growing soul feel like?
Right. Why am I blocked to this question? I'm blocked. Yeah, what is happening? Okay, make this question personal for you, Michael. What do you want to know about this? What are you asking for yourself?
My soul has been stagnant all my life, except for moments when God or love has cut through somehow.
Okay.
And the state I'm used to is stagnancy, and that makes me want to get out of it.
Yeah.
But it's what I'm comfortable with. But a soul that's healthy and is growing feels differently, and
Yeah.
so I want to feel like I'm growing.
Okay. So, and there it is. There it is. Okay. I'll just make a comment before we take the comments. So it's where I go usually with this kind of stuff to grow my desire is I'll ask my guide, what's it feel like? What does it feel like to be growing all the time? What does it feel like for you? So that they can share their passion, their experience of it. And when you feel that, you're like, oh, wow, yeah, no, I want that. And then the other thing you just mentioned is, this is comfortable. And you're going, and I'm thinking, well, is that your addiction? Are you addicted to comfort? Is that what that is? So that you can start challenging the addiction itself. Because then that will keep you steady. So it's more like another addiction to challenge, so that you can not be blocked. So I think what your heart is really asking is, Aphraar, what's it like? You changed again in another chapter. I feel you're different. What's it feel like? Can you share your feelings with me? Yeah. And then, are you stagnant? Is that how God feels about you? And how is God treating you in how you're stagnant versus how you're treating yourself? So
Sounds like I'm critical about being stagnant, and maybe God has some soft love for that.
yeah. and talk to that hurt self that is stagnant, because there's a, if that's what you are, because that's a hurt little boy. Like the way I'm slowly changing how I'm treating myself, because right now I'm challenging my addiction for validation, which is like, oh, so painful. But I'm thinking to myself, there is a hurt little kid at the end of that addiction, and I want to find her. So it grows my desire to go through the, oh my God, here's the damage, and oh my God, here's what I've done with that. And but at the end of it, the part of goal at the end of it is, there's a hurt kid in that addiction. I want to find her, and I'm going to love that addict. So it softens a little bit more how harshly I'm treating myself. Like, it's brutal. So there's a little Michael in there somewhere that's like, yeah, I want my comfort. I'm holding on to it with everything I have. Thank you. Can we take Virginia's comments?
When I feel that my soul has expanded, I have a feeling of like I have more freedom within myself. But that doesn't last forever, because you have to keep growing, and then it goes away, and then you go into the comfort, and then eventually something else starts to come up, and I want to go back into growing again, because it does feel wonderful, and it's the freedom that keeps reminding me that I want to keep doing this. It's that freedom that I feel, and also that I feel supported in it. During that time, I feel support. And when I'm stagnating and just hanging on to comfort, it doesn't feel like that. It's the opposite. It's the opposite. Yeah.
Freedom. That's a cool perspective, because when I'm in my comfort, I'm like, I'm gonna be out and raw, and freedom is the last thing I'm thinking of. But that's a beautiful perspective, that as you keep changing, you're actually feeling free and being free. What a plot twist. That's a good one. Thank you. And Alicia?
Yeah, I can I can agree with Virginia. Firstly, I wanted to comment on if Aphraar's soul has grown, and it feels to me, and from his last experience in God's workshop, it feels like he's almost like seen the circumference of the circle, and so there's something really huge expanded in him, in being able to see backwards and forwards at the same time. So I feel like he has grown, and his desire to want to help Clarice, who he obviously has a lot of affection for, and as we learn later is his soulmate, but it feels like he naturally wants to, because he's received so much of God's love, he naturally wants to be able to pass on all the help that he's had to other people. And I think that's one of the things that happens to us when we do get those snippets. And I absolutely agree with Virginia. It's like snippets, and then I'm down in resistance again, and then another snippet. So when we do have those, it feels natural to want to share that in whatever way we're able to. And so that's one of the things that I notice. I definitely notice when I'm stagnant and in resistance, I don't feel free. I feel limited, and I feel tired and de-energized, and I don't have, my desire isn't really there, and it's more like I'm doing things habitually rather than doing them because I really want to do them. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Michaela.
I feel that this year some major events happened that kind of seemed to push me out of stagnancy. I still go in and out of it, but not like it was before. And the things that I notice in this place is that I feel out of control, and my like there's a timelessness kind of comes into it. And I noticed in the book there's so much timelessness, like that, you know, you do one thing and you do it into completion, and then Aphraar will go and do another thing into completion, and there's no sense of a to-do list or anything that's backing up. It's just a thing of, I'm doing this now and then I'll do the next thing. And I feel like I'm starting to connect to that more in my life, and realizing that if I just get to the end of the day and I haven't been angry with my kids and I've been able to show love, then it's been a good day. And that's been something that's been a real blessing, is to drop away so much planning for the future and so much judgment of the past, and to just try and be present to what is in the moment, to the best of my ability. But that's been one thing that I've noticed has changed for me. And also, like Selena mentioned something about with the mediumship, how 2 days before something happened and it came into the mediumship. And I feel like just developing more faith in that, you know, if you put something out there, the answer's going to come back, you know, and starting to believe in that. And so coming up against something that starts to make me feel stagnant, and being like, I know that I can ask about this, and I know that I will receive information about this. And so that feels really exciting. I feel like I've finally got God on my side, you know, and like I'll turn my back on him, sure, but I know how to turn my back towards, I know how to turn towards him now too. And that feels like a whole different level of life, really.
Beautiful. Thank you. See how the word stagnant has got us all going now, Michael. See how that works? Yeah. We're all excited about that topic. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Should we move on to question? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Michael.
I guess part of that was, can you imagine, I was asking so we've answered what are some hallmarks of a growing soul. I think we have, and we could discuss it later, but do you think we'll have these feelings forever? You know, if God is infinite, if we're going to live forever now, and we're going to keep growing, are we going to keep stretching? Are we going to keep feeling like we're growing? Are we going to have these spurts? What's it? Will we even be able to stand it? You know,
You're gonna have to ask your guide to give you your feelings about it. What's it feel like for them? They'll give you the feelings for a split second, because that's all you can handle.
and then I wanted to point out, I think there is a difference between somebody on the natural path, and I called it independent minded, but somebody who's doing all the lifting and work on their own, versus this. Michaela, you've engaged God, you've engaged your soul in a relationship with God, and that's the other way. It's different, and you have feelings that you can't get when you're just relying on when we rely on ourselves for our progress. And I wanted to bring that point out for our spirit friends.
But what's the point you're making towards yourself about this?
Oh, you'd ask that.
This is justification for self-attack.
I have my feet in both camps. I'm not getting a clear answer.
No judgment, though. There's a reason why you got one foot still in there. It's all right.
It's like that diaphanous bridge over the chasm. I don't feel, you know, it's not strong enough to hold me, and I can barely see it. But I guess it's going to get more real to me.
It did for Aphraar, right? It started with not even seeing a bridge. What bridge? How are people getting across?
Yeah.
Just lines. Yeah.
They had to loan him some energy
Yeah.
to see it.
Yeah. exactly.
Yeah.
So
So next question, may we? Okay. So Clarice, I've heard in mediumship, I've heard descriptions of caverns, and conditions and stuff. And then here it is in print. And this lady, they have to go a long way. It sounds like they're really going underground, and they're going by a feeling. They have a little bit of light. And then finally, like in the back, way in the back, they find her. And she seems to be in so deep she can't get out. And where I was going with that was, nobody's in so deep they can't get out. And here's somebody that's like them, that's been in really deep, who didn't think she could get out, and help found her. And she came up with, every excuse in the book to not go. And yet she could not walk out the same way that these other people walked in. So why was she trapped there? So why is any spirit, any spirit in the physical or the spirit world trapped in their condition? And how can we help people begin to feel like it's not a permanent, it's not a punishment, it's not your fate?
well, I feel that some of the stuff that she was feeling, that she was expressing, were some of the false beliefs she had absorbed about gender issues. And I was thinking of Selena going, oh, there's some gender issues going on here, and about the devil, about deception, which are again some religious-based false beliefs. But then my tantrum was, all she did was reject her soulmate, and she ended up in hell. Like, seriously? Like, what? So I just had a moment. It was just a moment, but I had a moment. But there's a lot of feelings I have about like, I don't know why she was there, and I'm curious to see if we can, in our discussion, receive some feelings from her. I've been feeling her a lot in this discussion, which is beautiful. Yeah. So comments.
Virginia.
Virginia.
I really felt like she didn't want to feel her grief about love,
Oh.
appointments in love.
Uh,
And so she's gone into rage and fear and not wanting to feel pain. But I just really felt like there's grief there, and she doesn't want to feel that grief.
I think you're right there. Good one, Virginia. Okay. Interesting how that just never crossed my mind. Michael, do you have comments about that?
Well, I agree. And the fear is like all the resistance manifested as fears. So the fears on top, kind of on top of the grief. I felt it when you said it, it felt true to me too, Virginia. And now she's going to go to a place where it's going to be safe, I think, to feel her grief. And she's got to be exhausted from that fight. Selena?
Well, the part that really resonated for me was her feeling of abandonment from Fred. That he, even though she left him, there was some expectation, I think, that he would have fought harder for her, that she has some injuries around that, around being abandoned, about being that nobody will fight for me, that nobody, even if I, like people are so easily pushed away, that, because I got that feeling that like she's accusing him of all kinds of things, like he just betrayed her, like she left him, and yet like there's this big injury around that, like so much resentment that even if I hurt people, they should still love me, like even if they shouldn't abandon me, like, so she's got some big injuries around being abandoned, I think. big ones. So there's a lot going on with her. Like she's afraid and she's abandoned and she's resentful, angry. So, because it does seem like that she's in a really dark place, but she's also got a ton of remorse about, you have no idea the things that I've done, you know, so she's really got a lot going on that put her there, I think.
Michaela.
I don't really know how to say this, but Michael, you were just saying at the end of the last question about the difference between like independent minded, like natural love, and God's love. And I wonder if this is an example of she's kind of paying out the compensation of her rejecting of the feeling of love and just being in this victim mentality and angry about where she is. And the idea that she could stay there for like 20 more years or something to just keep slowly chipping away at the feelings that are there. But then Aphraar decides to come in, and if they're soulmates, then what's going on with their soul? Like their soul must be full of a lot of love, but she's in this rageful victim state. And then something in him desires to come and retrieve her, and she can leave. And it just, so, as soon as you bring God into it, the whole situation's becoming something else. Whereas she was convinced that she had to stay there until, I don't know, she was worthy of receiving anything.
I could see her staying there a long, long, long time.
Yeah, that was the feeling I got too.
Hmm.
And I felt like that soulmate connection that Aphraar had, his soul, he's growing. And so he's getting stronger. He's becoming aware of this other part of himself, and he has a great compassion and desire for her. And that created an intense prayer. And I think that Aphraar's soul saved Clarice just through his desire. And it reminded me of Dandy and Bully Peg in Jesus's explanation of how Bully Peg's prayer, if that was it, he was angry at God, but those real feelings were actually a prayer, and he just wanted Dandy to have some food, and then somebody comes and adopts him into a good family. And like, who could have guessed? Selena?
Just from other things that I read about soulmates, it seems to me almost, or I'm actually asking a question. It feels like as a person grows in love, if they're soulmates in a dark place, it just seems to squeeze them almost. Like it's just more and more pressure because they feel separation more and more and more as their soulmates are growing in love, and when they're kind of in the same place, I don't think they get that same feeling in terms of if they're in the same place in terms of darkness. But when one's so far advanced, I would think she's in a lot of pain, more pain, because he's so far ahead, and it would reciprocate by having a much stronger desire to help her than if they were soulmates, maybe just separated by a sphere and aren't really feeling that pressure until maybe they get closer, like to the 8th sphere, to be together, right? So I think there's a lot of pressure. I think, and so your soulmate really does need to come and rescue you, because the pain of that spread is agony.
And also, I think Jesus mentioned somewhere that God generally will have one half of the soul be helped more, be more developed, so that half can then come back and pull out the other one.
Yeah, and I think it's almost the way I'm feeling it. They almost have to, like, it's because the pressure is intense. Like the desire, the more it progresses. So like suddenly he's just really feeling her. Like he's just really feeling her and really feeling her pain, like really feeling it. He's just got to go there. He just can't go any farther without doing something, helping. Like, he just can't.
And her agony is more sensitive. She's more sensitive to that sensation.
Yes, I think so, because like it's a reciprocal relationship with soulmates, because they, yeah, it's, yeah,
Cool.
yeah, it is. Yeah, so, and I guess we're probably experiencing that as well,
Yeah.
each of us. Yeah,
Yeah. And the emotion I'm trying to avoid in this chapter is I'm rejecting my soulmate with a vengeance, with like full on everything I've got.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like, well, yeah, okay, fine. So now I'm gonna go sit in some cave over that too.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, just this feeling of like, yeah, I'm feeling justified and some self-pity about like, for God's sake, didn't you see my injuries? Of course I was going to reject my soulmate, and now you're going to punish me over that too. So I'm feeling this feeling of just can't win.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just a few moments, it'll be gone soon. It's okay, you just got to let it pass through you. Michael, any comment about what Selena said?
I want to tag on to what you just said, Mila, and then pass it to Michaela. And then I thought I'd summarize the other questions and see if we wanted to come back to anything so we can move on.
Yeah.
So I have no awareness, no soulmate love, no awareness of soulmate. It's just a theory. It's another idea to try to be, it's kind of like the idea of being at one with God is a theory, an idea, and finding my soulmate, loving my soulmate, having soulmate feelings, that's an idea. Very, you know, one of these things I believe and don't believe. But I think I'm starting to become aware that I am in denial. I can see there's a little bit of light. It's still before dawn, but I think I'm beginning to recognize that I'm in denial about soulmates, and that there's somebody, one person that I'm supposed to love. So I just want, on the spectrum, I'm way over there, but I'm out of zero, I think. Okay. Could I pass to Michaela? Okay.
A talk that I've been listening to this week multiple times is it was in the 2016 Creation of My Loving Self talk, and it was about the creation of my real self, where Jesus talks about the soul and the soulmates, and a way that I've been perceiving my relationship with my soulmate lately, which just brings a whole level of different way of looking at what we're talking about right now, is, you know, we're already together. We're already in essence that's completely blended together, and there are just identities attached to it. So Clarice is just a spirit body attached to the soul that is Clarice and Aphraar. And I just think, how would that be for her when so much of her soul is flooded with God's love? And like Selena, like you were saying, the conflict of that must be agony. And yeah, I just wanted to reflect on that idea that they're already together. And Mila, you were saying, I reject my soulmate. It's like, well, you're already together. And I'm really starting to soften into that idea and try and build faith in that. And it's just my spirit body and my physical body and my partner's spirit body and physical body that are in conflict to the truth that is, you're already together. We're
already together. Your soul is already together. It's just your awareness of it or something like that, right?
Yeah, the awareness. Yeah.
Wow. Like I feel like I'm this to God, you know, God's love, but thinking of what you said, it's like, oh my God, it's in me. It's in me. And I'm like doing this to myself.
Exactly. Like, I found just that shift to seeing it as a wholeness already, and we're just bodies attached to it, has just really made me change the way I perceive whatever I put into it and whatever work I'm doing on it. And anytime I can get God's love involved in it, you know, it's creating an impact on the other part. Sorry.
Alicia?
Oh, I just picked up on Michaela saying, just using the word conflict, because I can feel Clarice is in with what you've all said now, is she's in a conflict of feeling unworthy of love, but also almost like angry at not being loved and not being taken care of. So I feel like this is a part of that soulmate thing going on, that she's in this dichotomy of, I should have this, but I haven't got this, and I'm not worthy of this, but I'm angry that I haven't got this. And I think a number of us can relate to that for ourselves too.
So we're holding out in our tantrum. Yeah. So what are your feelings? It sounds as if, according to what Zisvene was saying, that her penalty has already been paid off, but she's still sitting there and would have continued staying there. What do you think's going on there for her?
But
Go ahead.
but wasn't it that as she was feeling repentant, that was like Zisvene said, it was her last, that was her last little bit of penalty as she became repentant.
Okay. Okay. No, Michael, you don't think so?
I don't have an
Okay.
answer.
Yeah, okay. And what's going on for her as she walks out or is carried out? Like what Michael had pointed out in the questions about what's going on for, what's the process she's going through as she's led out of the cave? Because it looks like she must have tried to escape before and she was probably abused in some way, harassed in some way, and yet this time she's supposed to trust that she'll be able to come out. So what's happening for her there?
Well, she becomes willing first, right?
Yeah. She was willing to believe, yeah, she was willing to believe Zisvene, is that how you say her name? That this could be true for her, so a bit of faith. I guess faith came as she, yeah, go ahead.
So
Michael.
people came and told her that she wasn't forgotten, and I'll pass the microphone in a sec. But strangers came. They weren't there to hurt her. They weren't there to punish her. They were telling her that to have hope and that things could be better and that they could help and they knew the way out, and just trust us and try it and you'll see. And the things you believe about yourself are not true, although they didn't say it like that. But your love, they were showing her love, and they found a way in for her to feel a little bit of love, and she began to soften and she became willing.
Okay.
Virginia?
I agree with what you're saying. When Zisvene was talking to Clarice and brought her back to the times when she was with Aphraar, or and the lifetime that when she was feeling love, when they were in love. And she took her back to that. So she started to open her heart up a little bit more. And she got back to those feelings. That's what I felt was happening. She started to open up and remind herself, I have had this. I have felt this. And she started to open up a little bit and started to trust and feel perhaps their love for her, and that she could trust them. And I thought that was really cool at how much care they took in bringing her out, that it was in her time, and that they were so patient, regardless of how slowly she was coming out of that.
Mm-hmm.
That they were just so supportive and encouraging, and that's how God is with us. I feel that I often forget, but that is how supported we are. And I thought that was really beautiful to that scene, how that was written.
Thank you.
Truth is emotional. They found that they touched an emotional truth that she knew the truth of. Alicia?
Yeah, I felt Clarice was in a push me, pull you feeling of she seemed initially had to have absolutely no hope, but as they spoke to her, it was growing a little bit. So as Virginia said, she was being very gently encouraged to develop that and open that, and some little bit of hope came. And then, as Virginia said, it just shows you how our guides are helping us, how God is helping us, how we can help others, because in this world, as Michaela beautifully said, it can seem so hard, and we're not very soft in our encouragement, or that's not softly done to us. We're sort of just told, buck up, instead of being just gently encouraged. So I think it's a mixture of her not wanting to go, not having enough faith with them, and it just slowly beginning to build, and her having enough go forward. But they can't actually do it for her. They can only encourage and support and hold her, but she has to have that, build that willingness through their softness.
Okay. Thank you.
Selena?
I like the part where she's walking and then she'd stop, kind of hesitate, like she'd had a thought. And to me, I was imagining her letting go of false beliefs as she's going along. Like she'd have a little thought about something, just a little thought, and go, well, maybe that's not true either. And go on a little while and a little more faith. And then another thought would come, oh, maybe that's not, like to even just start getting out of that feeling of that denial, and just to open yourself up to, oh, maybe that's not right either. If I believe that was wrong, maybe this is wrong, and maybe that's wrong, and maybe that's wrong. So as she's going along, that's what it felt like to me, like she's having these thoughts and she's hesitating, and you just have to wait and be patient while she works through that thought and go, yeah. She doesn't even have to work through the whole thing, just acknowledge that, yeah, maybe that's not right. Because if she thought, oh no, I can't do this, like having a thought like that, she'd be stopped in her tracks, right? So
That's
it's just a letting go of resistance to just that what she thinks might not be true.
And also literally your soul has to get a little lighter, a little more buoyant to literally lift up and above those areas. So you have to kind of literally drop things back, The thought is heavy.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
that you got to drop, and then you get lighter as it more.
Yeah, it's almost like a thought would come and it would be like oh, no, I can't go anymore. Oh, maybe I'll just let that one go. Just keep letting them go.
Like that.
Yeah. That's was the first thought I had when I read that. I liked it. Like, it just felt nice. Just felt good to
organic.
think of. Yeah, just felt good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Michaela?
My signal's not good, so I'll just turn the video off. Does she receive God's love through Zisvene in that process? I was a bit unclear about that. I thought maybe she did. Because Aphraar's reflecting on witnessing the magnetic chorale, how Diomedes is able to pour the love onto the broken, and it's so that to me was God's love.
Jesus says that truth prepares the soul to receive love.
Okay.
So I just thought that, because she'd received some love, she was ready and she was able to move to the next space.
Okay.
And then the chords of resentment. I mean, there were changes that were taking place.
Yeah.
Good question. maybe she did receive God's love, but it was coming in the disguise of one of the guides coming through them. So it was more receivable because it's coming through somebody that is sympathetic and because if you're more open to receiving it from a guide, from a friend, from a book. I don't know. Yeah.
I wonder if I mean the love has to come from God, but
Mhm.
I wonder if Zisvene was receiving some too, and that's why she started to glow.
Mm. Oh, so much. Yeah. These are technicalities. I
Subtleties.
can't fathom that stuff right now. Yeah.
Virginia.
I feel like she would have received it directly when Zisvene started talking to her about when she did have love in her life and she started to open her heart. That would have softened her up to receiving God's love, I think,
Ooh, I like that.
for divine love to come in. Because she was not open to love at all before that. So I think God would just be like, split second if there's an opportunity that he's going to
Yeah.
put into her. And
Huh.
I didn't think of that, Michaela. I think that's cool. I know I really felt like she opened up to love, but that God would use that opportunity to give her some love.
You almost want to like dissect that whole section line by line. Then this happened, and she said this, and then that happened, and she said this. It's like kind of break it down like a surgical procedure almost. Like what's going on here? It's really cool. Thank you, Virginia.
Michaela.
I mean, we can keep going with this or we can move on, but it's interesting with the magnetic corral, how those people were unconscious. They weren't specifically asking for God's love, but they received it and they were healed through it. So I wonder how that works, when we're told and taught you have to ask for it. So yeah, it's just something, I don't know.
And
Or can somebody else ask on your behalf out of our compassion and our desire for their release and mercy? Can that be?
That would be great. I would like that.
I wonder if that's what our guides are doing all the time with us.
Well, if you think they're at one with God, so anytime we're actually connecting to them, we are feeling that feeling anyway from them because they are automatically aligned with God. So there's something going on there.
Something going on there. It's a little suspicious, like, hey God, you're sneaking in here, aren't you? You're putting little drops of love. You just can't help yourself. That's a good one. Okay, thank you. Okay.
yeah, I only have speculation about that. But what Virginia, what you were saying, she released a false belief and connected with something that was true in her. And I think God's love came then. I mean, the conditions were right for God's love to come. When I first met AJ, I had some belief about my worthiness to have the messages, because I had a lot of Paget's messages at that point. And I think that was it, but he talked me through it, and then I had an inflowing of love. I released a false belief and love came.
Wow.
May I summarize kind of what I was going with in these questions? So I was thinking of our spirit friends, and I wanted to show that her feelings are similar to theirs, and there was no judgment of it. And then she had a lot of fears and ways of the way that she felt about herself. So surely there are similarities, and there was no mention of a mirror, but it's possible to look in a mirror and see the effect of, well, we think, or we're told that one's emotions creates a soul condition, or vice versa, and that creates where we live. and the way we appear. And so spirits can look around and see, get some clues about themselves that way. There is some reason for why our habitation looks the way it does. And also they could do something real personal and look in a mirror. And Jesus has said that a lot of spirits don't even think of it or don't want to, but they could see the effect of the emotions on themselves. I was curious. It was interesting to me that she couldn't walk out, and initially Aphraar couldn't walk over the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had to grow. She had help come to her, but there was some change, Virginia, as you said, some change that took place in her. I wondered if a person is frozen by their fear, and if we kind of get out of hell by slowly feeling our feelings, except I'm not thinking that's right. I think we have to suffer? But I'm just wondering, if you're frozen by fear, does that suspend and increase the amount of time it takes to get out of hell? Could fear increase the duration of hell? Virginia, what do you think?
I feel like Aphraar also needed to complete his like forgiveness towards Clarice for her rejection of him. And that was holding him back. So this mission was for both of them, I think, because Walu Mali was trying to encourage him with that. And he still, Aphraar still felt like it was a wound. And he thought that he had already worked through a lot of that, but it wasn't complete for him. So that's what I felt. But anyway, I don't know. Do you think that is part of this too? Is that he couldn't cross the bridge because he needed to complete that forgiveness towards his soulmate?
That would be a really deep hurt, rejected by your soulmate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. I'm speaking as the rejector here.
We caught that.
I didn't realize myself that I have done that and doing that too. But yeah, and this was a difficult chapter in many ways.
It is a very difficult chapter. I've got some, I need to spend more time being mad about some stuff, working through some tantrums that came up around it. Yeah. Okay.
So another idea, Clarice either felt she deserved the punishment, she deserved to be in hell, or that she couldn't get out. And so if she was not hoping, if she was just enduring and raging that she was there and blaming other people and not trying or wanting to get out, how did she finally get saved? Why did she, if she didn't want it, why did she get out? Why did help come to her?
Well, her penalty was almost paid off. So I'm assuming that everyone's penalties that are almost paid off or have paid off, people will try to, like if you read the channeling somebody did of Judas's channeling, the books are, I think, on the website, Divine Truth website. It seems that one of the apostles had to keep coming back to Judas and say, you've paid off your penalty, you can leave here now. And how hard it was to convince him to leave because of his own self-judgment, his own self-punishment kept him there longer. But, the attempts would be made. I'm assuming attempts would be made to try to. But then by that point, you're so shaken, you're so broken, or are aware of your hurt self to that point when, we're a little bit shaky and need somebody to hold our hand and take us up. So, but that is But then on the other hand, what you mentioned earlier, I think, Michael, is that, can a soulmate in better condition activate that? And like Selena said, can the discrepancy cause so much pain and agony on both ends that it ends up like God created that in place to make sure that one will pull up the other? Change will happen. A lot of factors going on here.
So the question comes up, what if your soulmate's not in really good condition and you don't believe that you're worthy of getting out?
Yeah.
What happens then?
We have guides. Wait, hold on. Michael, what are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling that's why the celestials say we must work while it is day, because when night comes, no one can work. I feel this is their calling in love to reach everybody, and they're doing what they can.
And they are celestial spirits, so I don't see them failing. They will succeed.
I think it's just admitting this is what the situation is, and we're doing what we can. And that doesn't mean that you are forgotten.
Ever.
But there are things people can do to help to make it easier to be reached.
Well, false beliefs are, shitty things, eh? When you have false belief that you've been abandoned, false belief that you are a bad person and you got one chance and that is it. If you watch the Good Life, the Good Place, the comedy series, The Good Place, like how, after all of the season, what was it about? Well, why is it that once you've been sentenced to something, you never get to upgrade yourself? Come on. It was like, what a beautiful premise. So, because also false belief that enter us, like that's terrible. We're beyond redemption, like ouch. So that false beliefs are terrible things, because then, like somebody say here, then you don't even ask. I'm thinking about the mediumship done with the Vietnamese woman. That still haunts me, because they were there for like 2,000 years, some of them, that just, yeah. And that's false beliefs, because I think they had false beliefs about their worth, right? That because they're a woman, they're worthless, and girl, I'm gonna get mad again. So time to go for a drive. Okay.
I don't know how much time we have. I'd like to hand it at the end, since you have invited guests, if there's anything you wish to say, you have the last word, Mila.
No. Well, what are your wishes for all our spirit friends right now, each and every one of us? What is it you wish for them? Especially as I hope for a very specific group of people to be around for this session.
I hope that since we've discussed these things, that I hope to engender some hope, and also because these are real. We are having real experiences. We're real people with some real experiences, and we're groping, but something's happening.
Yeah.
And I want them to know that I want them to know this is real, and you don't have to be stuck where you are. And the people that are in this story are probably right there.
Yeah.
With you and others, and they want us. They would like to testify that yeah, you don't have to. Things can change. Things can be better.
And they deserve to have things change for them. is my feeling for them.
There was one quote from a recording that I almost put in this, and Jesus was the prayer for divine truth, and Jesus says God knows us so well. He knows how bad we can be, but he also knows how the greatest thing that we could possibly accomplish. And I think the angels work, our guides work, because they know that great things can happen when the circumstances are prepared. And they don't see us where we are now, but they see the greatness that is in us. And they're not afraid of it, and they want to help bring it out. And that's our worth. It's not how our worth is not what we feel about ourselves now, but what we are to God and what we can make of ourselves and do for others. I have no more to say.
Thank you. It's a beautiful prayer. How about others? What are your prayers? What do you wish for our spirit friends today who are struggling like we are? Michaela?
My wish is that they can know God and that they can just start the conversation, even if it just starts as an intellectual ranting or raving, that they just start directing those words and those thoughts and feelings towards God.
Thank you. Alicia?
Yeah, that they just feel encouraged by what they've been listening to with our conversation and with what actually happened, in which we've read in the book, which actually happened, that they feel encouraged that there's support and there's help there. It's like right next to them. It's just about them having even a slight desire to see and be curious, like maybe there is a possibility we can get out of here. Maybe we can change something. And it only needs to be a slight longing, and that help will be visible to them.
Very fast. One of the experiences I have that keeps being reinforced is God is very responsive to me. Like I keep going, wow, God is very responsive. And it kind of grows my faith and confidence in engaging God. It's like, God, wow, you are so responsive. You are going to be right there and you're going to respond to me immediately. And that, I don't know, that does something for me. Yeah. Okay, so I feel like there's more stuff. Let yourself feel about this chapter more. This is a difficult chapter because we love Aphraar and we've been feeling, some of us have been feeling Clarice through this, and it's difficult for me to see that Clarice had to spend some time in that place. It just breaks my heart that she had to go through that, and it breaks my heart that anyone has to go through that. So I think there's some stuff we could feel about that. Alicia?
I found it really useful for this chapter in particular to read it out loud, as if I was those. I read it slowly and out loud, but as if I was each of those personalities. So wow. I was like as Clarice.
Wow.
Really soft. It sort of helped me feel and integrate the feelings a bit more for myself.
Yeah, I love it. You gotta narrate the books. Michael, you gotta bring Alicia in for this one. Okay. Okay, thank you. I'll stop the recording now.